of people. I spent most of the pandemic stuck inside, staring at the walls, going crazy. Started buying weird shit online. Decided I was going to redecorate my place. I don't know anything about interior design, but I know what I like. So I went on eBay, and I paid $500 for a child's coffin. I thought this will be great. It's vintage. You put that in your living room, it's a conversation starter. But like so many of the things we bought online during the pandemic, I regret it now. Thing finally showed up in the mail. Empty.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Science Wednesday, April the 22nd, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and Professor Feynman. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Varney and Company,
morning, everyone. Welcome to Varney and Company. Is there ever a quiet period in the news business? Not in the Trump era. Today we have war news from the Gulf, political news from Virginia, but we'll start with the market because, at least in the early going, the rally resumes. Half an hour before the market opens and the Dow's up about 300, little shy of that, 277. The Nasdaq, though, firing ahead, up another 200 points. The Nasdaq, investors like the indefinite extension of the ceasefire in the Gulf. We'll get more on that in a moment. As for the price of oil, it's holding right now at $91 a barrel. Not that much reaction to the news that Iran attacked 3 vessels in the Gulf overnight. 2 were commandeered. That broke the ceasefire again, but oil just at $91 a barrel. Little change for Treasury yields. It's been this way for an extended period. The 10-year yielding 4.28%. As for the 2-year, you're looking at 388 thereabouts, the 2-year is at 379. Bitcoin. $78,000. Where are we now? Yeah, 78.2. All right, more war news. The latest peace talks in Pakistan never got underway. President Trump extended the ceasefire because the Iranians appear to be fighting among themselves as to who should be at the talks. Trump is talking of their fractured government. The blockade continues. Iran is being squeezed financially. 30 countries, headed by the UK and France, are meeting to see how they can help reopen the straits. Europe and China are suffering the most from the energy supplies which are trapped in the Gulf. All right, politics. Voters in Virginia by 51 to 48. That's a narrow approval. They approved a redistricting plan that will shift political power in the state and possibly in the Congress. At the moment, Virginia has 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans in the House. Under the new map, that would likely turn into 10 Democrats and 1 Republican. On Monday, the state Supreme Court hears arguments to dismiss the new map. We're going to pick up on Senator Warren's sock puppet insult to Fed Chair nominee Kevin Warsh. The senator is a socialist and opposes any and all bankers. My opinion, heaven help us if a socialist ever gets serious influence over the banking system. Warren is the ranking member of the Senate Banking Committee. One more, and this is very promising. It's good news. In separate small clinical trials, 2 treatments showed promise they could help patients with pancreatic cancer. It's not a cure. One of the drugs being tested allowed patients to live longer. Oz Perlman, he's set to host the White House Correspondents' Dinner Saturday night. It's called Dinner on Saturday. But first, he's making a stop here on Varney and Company. He'll make a stop today. Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026.
And that was Varney and Company, Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute.
In the middle of writing this episode, I got knocked off my horse again. Not by a roof in Conroe, not by a car ride with someone who broke open my pain, not by a TV show judge in front of a room full of people, by a phone call where I told my editor the only thing I'm good at is stand-up. I said it like it was humility. It wasn't. It was a lie I'd been telling so long it felt like the truth. A way of making myself small before somebody else could do it for me. I've been doing that my whole life and calling it being grounded. C.S. Lewis said a truly humble man won't be thinking about humility at all. He won't be thinking about himself at all. And I realized I'd been thinking about myself constantly, just in the wrong direction. Instead of inflating myself, I was deflating myself. And both those are just vanity with different clothes on. Thomas Aquinas said humility is about recognizing the full truth about yourself, not just your limitations, your gifts too. Denying a real gift isn't modesty, it's ingratitude. And if you believe those gifts came from somewhere bigger than you, which I do, then diminishing them isn't humility towards that. It's an argument with the Creator about their own judgment. Real humility is what my papa practiced. He knew exactly who he was. He didn't need you to confirm it or deny it. He wasn't performing smallness. He wasn't performing greatness. He was just present, just real, just a cheerful man who was genuinely more interested in you than in himself. That's the whole thing. That's the whole labor. Acquiring humility is something life does to you whether you cooperate or not. The roofs and the car rides and the rooms full of people who don't think you're as good as you thought you were, those come for all of us. You don't have to seek them out. They'll find you. Practicing humility is something you choose every day without an audience. Not because it makes you look good, Because it makes you real. And real is the only thing worth being. The dirt we came from doesn't care how important we are. It'll take you back either way. Stay humble, not small, not diminished, not scared. Humble. There's a difference. And it took me 48 years and charging up the road to Damascus in the middle of writing something I was certain I understood to find it. I'm rooting for you. I tell you that every week. Humility, true humility is necessary for your growth. And truthfully, you didn't need me to tell you that. I'm JW, and I love you.
Thank you. Now, Geert Wilders.
Voorzitter, ik vind het een erg onbevredigend begin van deze premier. Ik had verwacht, was het teleurgesteld in de brief, dat heeft u in mijn termijn kunnen horen. Zeker. Dat u hier zou komen, dat ze zeggen, jongens, Nederland zit in een crisis en wij gaan nu de mensen helpen en dat doen we substantieel. En ik heb de hele dag dezelfde vraag aan al mijn collega's en ook aan u. Want nogmaals, daar gaat het debat over. Over hoe we mensen helpen die ellende van die hoge prijzen door te komen. Waarom zegt u niet gewoon nu, wij gaan de BTW op boodschappen op nul zetten. We gaan het hoge energietarief van de BTW naar het lage brengen. En vooral wegheen de accijnzen op benzine en diesel omlaag brengen. Waarom kiest u niet daarvoor? Waarom haalt u dan niet geld ergens vandaan weg? U weet mijn voorkeur, misschien heeft u zelf een betere, dat mag ook. Maar waarom doet u dat niet? Mensen hunkeren daarna. Ze willen niet maanden, misschien wel een half jaar wachten voordat ze iets van die centen krijgen. Ze hebben nu problemen. Ze hebben niet uw en mijn salaris, ze hebben nu problemen.
De minister-president. Nou, voorzitter, precies omdat het niet gaat om de heer Wilders en mijzelf of anderen hier in deze zaal die allemaal met hun salaris prima ook deze hogere energieprijzen kunnen opvangen. Het gaat om tienduizenden Nederlandse gezinnen die hard werken en elke maand aan het eind van de maand zich de vraag moeten stellen: kan ik die energierekening betalen? Kan ik mijn auto vol tanken om naar het werk te gaan? Die mensen verdienen onze hulp en onze steun. Niet alleen in de komende 4 weken, maar wellicht wel voor een veel langere termijn als deze crisis ook langer aanhoudt. En daarom kiezen we voor een aantal hele gerichte maatregelen. Ik heb het daar vandaag eigenlijk nog niet over gehoord, maar we trekken ook miljoenen extra uit voor het Nationaal Programma Leefbaarheid en Veiligheid. Dat zijn een aantal wijken in het land, voorzitter, waar we weten, daar staan de huizen met de slechtste energielabels. Daar wonen de mensen met bovengemiddeld veel energiearmoede die vaak moeite hebben om rond te komen. En met dat geld dat we nu uittrekken kunnen we tussen de 25.000 en 30.000 van die huishoudens echt structureel helpen. Niet met een doekje voor het bloeden, maar door echt fundamenteel te helpen dat huis beter te isoleren, zodat die energie...
And that was Geert Wilders and friend. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, motivation.
Greatness is a lot of small things done well. Day after day, workout after workout, obedience after obedience, day after day.
But a lot of people, they wish, and they're not willing to work. And I firmly believe you're never supposed to wish for it more than you're willing to work for it. It's always a result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. Don't look for any gains where there's been no sacrifice. Don't wake up and look for no game. Don't look for your game to improve. Don't look for the record to improve. Without sacrifice, there are no gains. If you want to show me you want to win that bad, pack your calendar, because everything is based off of activity. It's mathematically impossible for you not to win at the highest level if your calendar is packed from day till night, every single day, the entire year, day after day after day after day, without you winning. If you decide to drop your buckets where you are and develop your gifts, I grant you'll never ever be without. I grant you that your gifts will take you places that will literally amaze you. You got to concentrate your thoughts. Those thoughts have power, but you got to harness it. You got to focus your thinking. You own it, zero in on it. Think about it. Focus your thoughts. Now, as you do that, you're growing in consciousness, and that will increase your manifesting power. So you've got to work on it. When other folk are having a good time, you've got to have the strength of character to concentrate, to read, to digest information. Everybody wants to prize, but nobody loves to process. Everybody wants to be a champion, but nobody's willing to put in the work that it takes to be a champion. Everybody wants to hold up the trophy and say, man, I did it, but nobody's willing to put in the work that it takes to do it. I love the process. I love the thought of working for what I want.
A lion has a different type of appetite. When a lion, like a shark, tastes blood, it's dangerous. The 9-to-5 person, they make a sale and they're excited. When you get to my level and you get one thing, then you try to get to the next level, then you try to get to the next level, then you try to get to the next level. A true hunter's goal is not the prize. A true hunter's goal is to hunt. That's what they live for. They live to hunt. They don't just live to catch it. It's the whole process.
I get a kick out the weights. I get a kick out of fatigue. I get a kick out of the grind. I get a kick out of it.
When you are a true hunter, you don't hunt from 8 to 3. Why? Because the gazelle may not be open from 8 to 3. You hunt until you get a gazelle, and you don't stop until you get one. And then you get another, and then you get another, and you get another. You gotta go all in.
It's the process that makes you sweet.
You're not entitled to this. You're entitled to what you work for, strive for, fight for. And keep fighting with a passion, loaded with love behind you. And that's your fight, guys. The fire won't go out. The fight will never be too much.
And for some of you, you dream for a while, you get hit in the mouth, you quit and you give up. And you stop dreaming.
Is your dedication that cheap? Is your level of commitment that cheap to where all it takes is for something not to go the way that I want it to go, and I'm not the same individual, and the level of which I once cared, I no longer care that deep about? Like, is it that cheap? And what I've always wanted to do was be committed beyond circumstance. Meaning it is my essence. When the adversity and the opposition hit, like the only thing I've been trained to do is to think positive and look positive. I show up and I want to impact because this is who I am as an individual. It's my essence.
You can train yourself. You can condition yourself that this is my moment. This is my time. You're going to determine the outcome of your life. You're going to determine whether or not your life is exciting or whether or not it's boring. You determine that. And those people who know that, they move with a sense of urgency. They move with purpose and direction. They work and they manage their time effectively.
Every time I do what I do, from my level of sacrifice, my level of work ethic, my level of dedication and commitment to what I do, I just expect to win. I just expect for it to yield fruit.
Wins don't shock winners. They aren't amazed when they got a win any more than Michael Jordan was amazed when he hit a game-winning shot. That's what he expected. That's what we focused on. That's what we acted to do. That's what we worked to do. And because of all those things, we expect to win every time. Zero exceptions.
And I've learned that you gotta pass up on good to get to great. You gotta give up good opportunities sometimes. There's some good cause with some good money, but I prefer to stick with my passion. I would prefer to stay laser focused. And some of you in your life, the reason why you're not blowing up, the reason why you're not successful, you've not learned to pass. You think just because it's an opportunity, it's for you, and not every opportunity is for you. You gotta do what you was called to do. You gotta do what you were born to do. You gotta do what works for you, because if you do what works for you, you're gonna blow up. You sit here counting on somebody else. You have everything it takes. Everything you need for your success, you have it. You want affirmation, look yourself in the mirror and say, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. Do whatever it takes. You your biggest driver.
And that was motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little meditation. And that was a little meditation. Back in a minute. And now, Dr. Berg.
The healthiest bread in the world is not this. You're not going to be able to find it at the grocery store. I'm actually going to show you how to make it. I did a version of this video years ago, and I think I got like 9 million views. This recipe is 5 ingredients, so much easier. You are going to love it, and it's not hard to make. It's actually quite easy, but it's also the way you put these ingredients together that gives it the X factor. I know I've been very guilty of telling you what you can't eat. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what you can eat, okay? I just want to cover a misconception about whole wheat bread versus white bread, and then I'm going to dive right into the recipe. So many people have this idea that whole wheat bread is healthy for them. This is not true at all. I'm going to go through this really quick, and then we're going to dive right into the recipe. There was a meta-analysis of 13 different studies, and they found the average glycemic index for whole wheat bread was identical to white bread. That means both of these will spike the blood sugar exactly the same. I mean, it's pretty wild because if you look at the glycemic index, both of them are 71. Table sugar is 65, and whole wheat bread is higher than that. And I found in another study comparing these two that certain types of whole wheat bread will spike your blood sugar even more than white bread. Now, I'm not recommending white bread. I'm just telling you that there's not a big difference as far as your blood sugar. But there's more problems with whole wheat bread. It's anti-nutrient. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when you consume whole bread, you get the fiber, the bran. What's in the bran is something called phytic acid. Phytic acid binds with minerals like iron, zinc, calcium, magnesium, blocking them from going into your body. So here you are thinking you're getting this nutrient-dense product, but in fact, you're getting something that has anti-nutrients, okay? Guess what? The bran is removed in white bread, so you don't have phytic acid in white bread. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased at my own high-quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information. And then there's another compound in whole wheat bread. I don't even want to get into the woods with this. Just know that this compound creates inflammation. It has the ability to bind with insulin receptors, not in a good way. And so it does create a lot of problems. But guess what? It's removed in white bread. And then lastly, there's something called glyphosate, which is an herbicide. And this is in Roundup Ready. In fact, if you did a comparison with other GMO products, okay, with the amount of glyphosate on it, well, wheat has, I think, up to 3 times more because they spray it to dry the wheat. Glyphosate acts as an antibiotic. It can actually affect your microbiome. It creates a lot of issues because it's an herbicide. I've done videos on it. And guess what? There's a lot less glyphosate in white bread. Now, am I saying start consuming white bread? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can put both of these products in the same boat. I would avoid them. Instead, I would make this recipe that I'm about to show you. There's 5 ingredients. It's low in the glycemic index. It's not going to spike your blood sugar. It does not have anti-nutrients. It does not have this compound. It doesn't have that compound. And it's something that once you find out how easy it is to make and how delicious it is, you're going to be making it on a regular basis. So let's dive into it right now and show you how to make it. In this recipe, you're going to learn a key technique that separates good low-carb bread from amazing low-carb bread. Number 1, preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Step 2, in a large bowl, mix together the almond flour, the psyllium husk powder, the baking powder, and the salt. Step 3, separate your eggs, okay? Put the eggs in a clean, dry bowl, and this step is critical. Do not skip it. Number 4, beat the egg whites with a hand mixer until you get stiff peaks. This is the secret to that light, fluffy, airy bread because it traps the air and it gives the bread structure and lift. Step 5, in a separate bowl, mix the egg yolks and melt the butter together. Step 6, add the egg yolk mixture to the dry ingredients and stir till they're completely combined. At this point, it's going to be very, very thick. That's normal. Step 7, now you're going to gently fold the whipped egg whites. Do this in 3 additions, but be gentle. You want to keep as much air in this as possible. Step 8, line a standard loaf pan with parchment paper. Put the dough into the lined loaf pan and put it in the oven. Step 9, bake for 30 to 35 minutes. And step 10, and this one's really important, let the bread cool completely in the pan before slicing. Give it at least 30 minutes to cool down. Then you cut a piece of bread, add the butter to it, and consume it with your meal. Now, if you enjoyed that recipe, let's talk about the rest of the meal. In fact, this next video is going to reveal the absolute healthiest meal that you could ever eat.
And that was Dr. Berg. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Professor Feynman.
You think you know where trees come from. Of course you do. You've seen it 1,000 times. You push a seed into dirt, add water, wait, and eventually something green breaks through the surface and starts reaching upward. Trees come from the ground. Everyone knows this. It's not even a question worth asking. Except it is. Because here's what nobody ever stops to think about. A mature oak tree weighs around 10,000 pounds. Some trees weigh significantly more. That's thousands of pounds of wood, bark, roots, and branches that didn't exist a century ago. And now it does. So here's the question. Where did all that mass come from? Not vaguely, not poetically, physically. Where did those 10,000 pounds of solid matter come from? The obvious answer is the soil. Roots go deep, the tree pulls stuff up, and that stuff becomes tree. That feels right. That feels obvious. So let's test it. There's a famous experiment done by a Flemish scientist named Jan Baptist van Helmont in the 1600s. He took a willow tree weighing 5 pounds and planted it in 200 pounds of dried soil. He watered it for 5 years and let it grow. At the end, the tree weighed 169 pounds. It had gained 164 pounds of new mass. Then he dried the soil again and weighed it. The soil had lost less than 2 ounces. 2 ounces. The tree gained 164 pounds and the soil barely changed. So where did the other 163 pounds and 14 ounces come from? Not the soil. That's gone. That's the comfortable answer, and the numbers just killed it. This is the moment most people shrug and move on. They figure there's some technical explanation they don't understand, something about nutrients or chemistry, and they file it away and forget it. But stop. Don't move on, because what just happened is extraordinary. You watched 164 pounds of solid physical matter appear out of essentially nothing, and you have no idea where it came from. That's not a small gap in your knowledge. That's a gaping hole in your understanding of how the physical world works. And the answer, when you actually see it, is going to break something in how you think about trees, about air, about matter itself. Let me show you. Okay, so the soil doesn't account for it. But water does, right? The tree drinks water constantly, gallons and gallons of it. A large oak pulls up roughly 100 gallons of water on a hot day. Over a century, that's an enormous amount of water moving through the system. So the mass must come from water. That's the next obvious answer. And it feels even more satisfying than soil because you can actually picture it. Roots drink, water travels up, tree grows. Clean, simple, logical. Except it doesn't work either. Here's why. Water is H2O. 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. When a tree processes water, it breaks it apart and uses the hydrogen. The oxygen gets released back into the air, which is actually where all the oxygen you're breathing right now comes from. But hydrogen is the lightest element that exists. You need an enormous amount of it to account for any significant mass. And beyond that, wood isn't made of hydrogen. Wood is made of carbon. Carbon is the backbone of every organic molecule, every cell wall, every fiber of every tree that has ever grown. Carbon is heavy, carbon is dense, and carbon makes up roughly 50% of the dry weight of any tree. So here's the problem. The soil doesn't have enough of it. The water doesn't either. A tree's roots absorb minerals from the soil, things like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and those matter for biological function. But all of those minerals together account for maybe 1 to 2% of the tree's total dry mass. 1 to 2%. The vast majority of what a tree is made of cannot be explained by anything coming out of the ground. The math simply doesn't work, and it doesn't matter how many times you picture roots drinking water, the numbers refuse to cooperate. So you're left with a problem that should feel genuinely uncomfortable. You have a 10,000-pound object sitting in front of you. You know it grew from a 5-ounce seed, and you cannot account for the mass. Not from soil, not from water, not from anything you can see going into the ground. The answer is somewhere else entirely. Somewhere most people never think to look. And when you find out where, it's going to make you look at every tree you've ever seen in a completely different way. The mass comes from air. That's it. That's the answer. Not soil, not water, not minerals, not anything you can hold in your hand or see going into the ground. Almost the entire physical mass of a tree, the trunk, the bark, the roots, the branches, all of it comes from an invisible gas floating in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, CO2, the stuff you exhale, the stuff that makes up 0.04% of the air around you right now. That is what trees are made of. A 10,000-pound oak is, in the most literal physical sense, solidified air. When Van Helmont ran his experiment and couldn't find where the mass went, the answer was floating right in front of his face the entire time. He just couldn't see it because it was invisible. Here's what's actually happening. Trees pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere through tiny pores in their leaves called stomata. The CO2 flows in. The tree breaks it apart. It strips the carbon out of that molecule and uses it as raw building material, chaining carbon atoms together into long, complex molecules. And those molecules become everything: glucose, cellulose, lignin, the rigid fibers of wood itself. The oxygen that's left over after the carbon gets stripped out gets released back into the air, which again is where your oxygen comes from. The tree is essentially running a disassembly line on thin air, pulling invisible molecules apart, keeping the carbon and throwing the oxygen back out. And that carbon becomes wood. Solid, dense, physical wood that you can touch and cut and burn. That is not a metaphor. That is the actual molecular mechanism. For a second, just stop and sit with what that means. Every plank of wood in every house ever built started as a gas. Every wooden table, every ship, every forest, every piece of paper you've ever touched was once invisible CO2 drifting through the atmosphere. Trees are machines that reach into the air and pull matter out of it and stack it into solid form, using nothing but sunlight as the energy source. Van Helmont was right to be confused. He just didn't think to weigh the air. And honestly, why would he? The idea that something solid comes from something invisible violates every intuition you have about how matter works. But that's exactly what's happening. Every tree you've ever seen is crystallized atmosphere. Let that land. Then let me show you how. You learned the word photosynthesis in school. You probably remember something about sunlight and chlorophyll and oxygen. You passed the test and moved on. But you were never shown what's actually happening. And what's actually happening is one of the most extraordinary physical processes in the known universe. Let's go through it properly. Sunlight hits a leaf. Now that sunlight is not just warmth or brightness. It is electromagnetic radiation, oscillating electromagnetic fields, traveling at 300 million meters per second. The same fundamental force that holds your atoms together. The same force behind magnets, electricity, and chemistry. When those electromagnetic waves hit a chlorophyll molecule inside a leaf's cell, something remarkable happens. The energy from the light gets absorbed by an electron in the chlorophyll molecule, kicking that electron into a higher energy state. That energized electron then gets passed along a chain of molecules called the electron transport chain. And as it moves, it powers the construction of ATP, which is the energy currency cells use to do work. That's the light reaction. Energy captured from electromagnetic radiation and stored in chemical form. Now the plant uses that stored energy to do something almost unbelievable. It takes CO2, a molecule that is completely stable and has no interest in being broken apart, and it forces it open. It strips the carbon out and uses that carbon to build glucose, a simple sugar with the formula C6H12O6, 6 carbon atoms chained together with hydrogen and oxygen attached. That glucose is the first solid thing in this whole process. The first moment where invisible atmospheric gas becomes an actual physical molecule the tree can use. Then the tree takes that glucose and does something even more impressive. It chains thousands of glucose molecules together into long repeating strands called cellulose, which is the primary structural material in plant cell walls, and into lignin, which fills the spaces between cells and gives wood its hardness and rigidity. Cellulose and lignin are what wood actually is, and the chemical bonds holding all of those molecules together, the bonds between every carbon atom in every strand of cellulose, in every tree, in every forest on Earth, those bonds are electromagnetic. The same force, always the same force. Sunlight, electromagnetic radiation, hits a leaf. The energy gets captured and used to forge electromagnetic chemical bonds between carbon atoms pulled from the air. Those bonds build glucose. Glucose builds cellulose. Cellulose builds wood. Electromagnetic energy becomes solid matter. That's not a simplified version. That's what's happening. Now take that and follow it one step further, because it doesn't stop at trees. You eat food. That food is mostly plants, or animals that ate plants, or animals that ate animals that ate plants. Every calorie you've ever consumed traces back to something that grew by pulling carbon out of the air. Which means by pulling carbon out of the air. Which means the carbon in your muscles, your bones, your brain, the carbon in every cell in your body right now, that carbon was atmospheric CO2 not that long ago. You are not made of earth. You are not made of water. You are made of rearranged air, stitched together by electromagnetic bonds and powered by ancient sunlight. Every carbon atom in your body has a history. It floated in the atmosphere as CO2. A plant pulled it in, stripped it out, and built it into glucose. Something ate that plant. Something else ate that. Eventually, the carbon ended up in your food, then in your body, forming the molecules that make you physically you. And before it was in the atmosphere, that carbon was in some other organism, which died and decomposed, releasing it back as CO2 to float free until the next plant grabbed it. Carbon has been cycling through living things and the atmosphere for billions of years. You are a temporary arrangement of atoms that have been part of countless other things before you and will be part of countless other things after. That's not philosophy. That's chemistry. Feynman used to talk about how a flower doesn't lose its beauty when you understand its biology. It gains something. Knowing what's actually happening doesn't flatten the experience of looking at a tree. It deepens it. Because now when you look at an oak, you're not seeing dirt that somehow stood up and grew bark. You're seeing hundreds of years of sunlight made solid. You're seeing electromagnetic energy captured from a star 93 million miles away, used to forge chemical bonds between carbon atoms pulled from thin air, stacked atom by atom into something you can climb and carve and sit under. The tree isn't drawing from the earth. The tree is drawing from the sky, from the sun, from the air itself. And you, standing next to it, looking up at it, you are the same process. Different arrangement, same mechanism. Sunlight captured, carbon bonded, matter built. You and the tree are running the same fundamental trick, just in different directions. If you want to keep seeing the world for what it actually is, not what it looks like, subscribe. That's what this channel is for. New videos soon.
And that was Dr. Feynman. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.